There are many ancient unexplained ruins which have long been suppressed, and in some cases completely covered up, found scattered across the United States of America, remnants of a prehistoric civilization which the powers that be would rather have remained hidden. Megalithic ruins rivaling even that of Baalbek found throughout Montana recently discovered enormous megalithic quarries throughout Utah, the falling block or melted handprints within Wyoming, and so on, a literal smorgasbord of ancient relics which have all successfully been ignored, hidden throughout the states. This lack of academic attention which these sites receive, one could perceive as rather suspicious. This, of course, if one were not aware that in reality, this a concerted effort which has long been put into hiding many factors of our ancient past, many of which some claim now sit within the vaults of particular institutes. Yet the biggest of these unsolved ancient mysteries, undoubtedly, Earth's countless ancient pyramids. I have in the past covered the little studied, and even lesser, explored submerged pyramid within Wisconsin, or indeed the incredibly old pyramid hidden within Dakota, yet like that of the long-claimed Great Pyramid, which once sat tall within Salt Lake City, once somehow constructed of solid copper blocks, our next item of interest was also seemingly quarried out, or possibly simply destroyed in this ongoing effort to hide the true grandeur of our planet's lost civilizations. Found within Pyramid Lake, one of the largest lakes within America, is a strange yet uncanny rock formation. This formation not only dated to over 300 million years old, but within the original documentation and indeed illustrations of the area, created by the first pioneers, just like that of the surviving evidence for the recently covered Copper Pyramid, which once stood within Salt Lake City, can be seen to have itself indeed once been a clearly man-made pyramid, which once stood proudly within this ancient lake, perhaps even once utilizing it as a water source. The question is, what happened to this mysterious anomaly? Could the many other artifacts we have found, often discovered perfectly preserved within prehistoric strata and coal seams, dating to this exact same age, not only supporting the existence of human civilization spanning back to these times, but corroborate the claim that this, along with the Great Pyramids, which still stand within Egypt, specifically its core stones, ones I have long postulated, are now obscured and covered by later conservation efforts, not a mere few thousand years, but quite possibly hundreds of millions of years old. Perhaps this, along with the original purpose, having long ago been unraveled surrounding the past function of these ancient structures, the actual true motive behind why this pyramid, along with many others I have encountered during my research for the channel, not just within the States but worldwide, destroyed, hidden, or attached to civilizations clearly incapable of such feats. This then perhaps all in an effort to conceal their true past function. I will keep you posted on any further explorations or confirmations of ancient human activity discovered within Pyramid Lake. It is a mystery which I find highly compelling.